Hello and welcome. On behalf of this oral history project, Am IUN, Josh Stanich, will be interviewing Professor Bill Allegrezza. Today is October 28th at approximately 12 p.m., and we are located on the third floor of the Anderson Library. Do I have your permission to share and record this interview?
Yes.
Awesome. So to start, tell me a little bit about your childhood, starting with where you grew up.
Yeah, so I'm not a Midwesterner originally. I grew up in the South. I grew up in Mississippi. I was born in Jackson, which is the capital, and I spent my first 18 years there, and I bounced around after that. Went to college in Dallas, and then went to graduate school in Louisiana later on. So grew up surrounded by Southern culture, so the Midwest was a little bit of a shock when I got here.
Mm-hmm. And then what would you say your favorite childhood memory was during that time?
Oh, favorite childhood memory. There's so many good ones. I think actually my favorite one was probably birthdays. My parents would do this thing where they would invite all my friends over, and they would just throw out hot dogs. It was the cheapest thing ever. Awesome. And it was before cell phones, and we would just run all day long.
Yeah.
Like no shirts, just shorts, running around, like jumping in water and just doing stuff little boys do, and it was just a blast.
Who would you say in your childhood had the greatest impact?
Probably, and this sounds a little cliche, probably my grandfather. I think people need somebody who's older sometimes just to say, like, I value what you do and who you are. And I don't quite know why, but my grandfather picked me as the one of the grandkids he wanted to take fishing, spend time with. I felt bad for some of my cousins because they didn't do that stuff with him. Mm-hmm. But I would go out in these early morning, like 5 a.m, get me up, cook breakfast. We'd go fishing, spend the day together. It was just good to have somebody to share space with.
Are you a big fisherman?
Now I don't do it at all.
No.
Back then it was it was just a big thing to do it with him. And I actually like doing it with my grandfather and not my father, because my grandfather was a great fisherman and my father was not good at fishing.
Yeah, same here. So where did you, obviously you grew up in Jacksonville, Mississippi, and obviously you're a professor now. Which teachers growing up do you think had the biggest influence on you?
Yeah, a lot of teachers did. I mean, I look back and I have memories of a lot of good teachers across the board. I mean, I can think of my third grade English teacher was a big influence on me. And my mother was actually a middle school English teacher as well. Oh. So she would have us reading. She would just throw books at us, so we would read a lot. We didn't always feel like we're reading for school. We just read stuff. Right. And then in high school, I had a very influential teacher who was really interested in writing and pushing us to read. He would, drop names in class, and I remember thinking, I've never heard of that, so I'd pick it up. So some of I think the things that stuck with me most are just things he mentioned in class, like the Italian writer Dante. I'd never heard of him, and he mentioned him in a lecture, and I went out and bought it that afternoon, and it was just love at first sight. But it wasn't something I'd studied. It was just reading. Mm-hmm. I think it's one of the big differences growing up then versus now. Now my kids are in high school right now, or one of them is, and they read mostly nonfiction. As a kid, we read fiction straight through, so I just fell in love with the stories.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What would you say your favorite book was then?
Well, Dante's probably one of those. The Divine Comedy. That was a big one that hit me when I was 18, and every time I go through it now, it still hits me. So that's a big one. But you could ask me that like any day of the week. I'd have a different book. I mean, I like all kind of different books.
Right. So then what influenced your decision to pursue the route that you did, educational one?
I mean, the influential teachers. However, I should say, like when I went to college, I went to Dallas. I went to the University of Dallas, a small school, on a full chemistry scholarship to study in the summer. And I was studying with this great influential chemist, and I hated it. I would spend all day in his class, and study was it was one of these summer programs. So you'd go from 9 to 3 or something like that. Yeah. And I would think I just don't like doing it. I would study, and nothing against chemistry. It was just I realized right away it was not my thing, because I would spend all night reading after I got done, hanging out with friends and stuff. So I'm like, well, clearly this is why I need to switch directions. And right away when I switched to become an English major in college, I knew that was what I wanted to do.
Originally, you didn't go for English college. You went for chemistry, right?
I went for chemistry, yeah. I even did a chemistry This was one of those weird things. I did a chemistry program in high school at a local college. I'd done like one of these med things in high school where you go like visit hospitals. I spent like a year walking around the hospital and thinking I was going to go into pre-med or pre-pharmacy or something, and then didn't at all. I mean, once I was a freshman in college, I went into English with foreign languages in the background. So, and I just kept with it.
Awesome. So can you talk a little bit about some of your work experiences after college?
Yeah, so I mean, I worked all the way through. I mean, I started painting in high school, summer houses, and like in college, I had to work all the way, all the way through it. I grew up in like a lower to middle class family, and so I worked all the way through. I did like admissions for the college I was at. I used to drive around Texas with the admissions officers trying to pitch students the school, and I worked actually in grad school. I worked in the accounting department, which was freaky because I'm not especially good with numbers. But I remember when I went to get LSU, they were like, "You got to sign off on these checks," and I would look at it, and it'd be the electricity bill, and it was $1 million a month. I'm like, "Do you really want me signing off on this?" But then I started teaching. I taught at a lot of different colleges along the way as a part-time teacher. So I taught in I started teaching at Louisiana State, and then I moved up here and I taught at Columbia College in downtown Chicago at Roosevelt. I actually started teaching at IUN as a part-time teacher. Then I left to go to a community college, and then IUN came and asked me to come back. And I didn't like community college, so I came back right away. So a lot of teaching experience. So.
Yeah. Can you describe your family life a little bit? Do you have kids?
I do. So I've got 2 kids. One's in high school, one's a middle schooler, and they're great. They're doing their thing. They're both. One was born in Michigan. The other one was born here in Indiana. I moved to Indiana like, I don't know, 13 years ago. I was first couple of years I was teaching here. I was still in Chicago. I've been married, I don't know, 18, 19 years at this point. It was my second wife. And it's good. We live in Indiana. It's great. It's like quiet and friendly, and it's the thing. The reason I actually like teaching here too is people are just nice and friendly. So that's kind of what ended me up here. Yeah.
What would you say the biggest difference between living in the South where you grew up and living here is? Or even some of the
there's a lot of differences. People ask about this one a lot. I'm not even sure that Midwesterners and Southerners get along well together. I think the first time I took my wife, who grew up in Michigan, to visit my family, so my family is a mix of Southerners and Italians. Like my dad's side was all Italian. I think the first time my wife heard my dad speak with this weird mix of Italian and Southernism, she had no idea what he was saying. She just kind of smiled and shook her head. I think the big difference for me is the way Midwesterners and Southerners, their speech patterns. I mean, that's kind of weird, not just the accents, but the way they tell things. So Midwesterners tend to be fairly straightforward.
Right.
So if I ask a question to somebody in the Midwest, I'm going to expect them to say yes or no, and then why. If I do that same question in the South, I don't expect a yes or no. I expect a story that's going to somehow roundabout and get to where I got me. Like I remember asking my mother growing up, like, "What'd you get at the grocery store?" And she would say, "Well, I went there, and then I ran into this person, I ran into that," and then like 10 minutes later, I would find out what she actually bought at the grocery store. But I would get all this information that I didn't really ask for on the way, but it kind of was how you communicate. So
interesting. So during your time here at IUN, can you share your favorite memory or moment here on campus?
So that was hard. I've been teaching here over 20 years. I have a lot of good memories. I mean, I have a lot of colleagues I really like, but I think most of my good memories are actually with students and like watching students learn. I can think of students who in the classrooms who realized what they wanted to do with their life, and you could see them do it at that moment. Like, they'd been told, like, become a nurse because that's what you want to do, and they just didn't fit them. And then that moment where they're like, oh, this is what I want to do. I love those moments where you see them change and transform. And for me, it's always cool when a student comes back and says like, hey, I did this or that. Like we have a student who wasn't an English major, but just took creative writing, who sent me her novel. She graduated like 7 or 8 years ago, sent me her novel over the summer, preview copy, and said, like, look, I started working on this, when I was at school with you, and here it is, right? It was like, I'm like, she wasn't even an English major and has gone on to publish a novel. So those kind of things are cool to me, where you see like students do stuff, or, students get excited about something.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And then what do you think, out of all your time here, 20 years, what do you value most about IUN?
The people. I mean, this is people always asking me like, why do you teach? Why do you teach there? Especially when I lived in Chicago, people would be like, going to Indiana. Indiana's like hours away. I'm like, it's actually not that far at all. But they would ask, and it's because I like the people there. I felt like I've taught at some schools, like especially some of the private schools I taught at, where I felt like the students were a little bit more pretentious, had a little bit more ego. I don't feel that here. I feel like students come in, they're genuine people. A lot of times they're working multiple jobs. They're there to try to improve their lives, and they're just fun working with. I don't know how to say that. It's just they're real people. Are real people here in a way that it just makes it where I don't have to convince people's egos to do something, or I don't have to work around issues of like students saying, I paid $30,000 to go here this semester, you do this for me. I don't have to deal with that here. I feel like students want to learn for the most part. Some of them have major challenges, but that's part of life. So I'm good with that.
And so obviously I found out you're the faculty head now of the staff, right? Can you explain how kind of that role how you progressed into that role recently?
Sure. I'm the president of the faculty organization, which I don't know if I would call it the head, or as much as the person who just kind of helps negotiate things on campus with faculty. So I've been trying to play a role in faculty governance for the past 10 years or so. It's largely because IU has a very strong sense of faculty governance. I don't think students always know this, but IU, part of its charter is faculty are in charge of a couple things. And so, high schools and stuff don't work that way, but here is like curriculum. So everything that's taught and who gets in, admissions, that's all faculty run and decision based. So I think I really wanted to be involved in that a few years ago. And there was a really influential past president who kind of helped with this, because I went to him and I told him I think I'd been here for like 10 years, and I said, I don't really understand how everything works on campus, because I just kept my head down and taught. He's like, okay, I'm going to put you on these committees and you'll get to learn how things work. And I think that pushed me into doing things more. And I think, honestly, there are a lot of faculty who really care, so it makes it fun to work with them on projects and see what they're interested in doing. And so that's what got me into it.
So what advice would you give to other students or future students here at IUN?
There's really the best advice I have is just keep doing it. I mean, this is going to sound odd, but like I like a year ago or something, I was cleaning out my office and I found the student roster from when I first started teaching as a part-timer. It looked really, really old. And I went through the list and I actually looked up the people on the list to see what they were doing. And it was so impressive. I mean, I was like, wow, this person's like a, second in charge of a bank. This person, it was incredible. And just sitting down and thinking, like a lot of students, I think they come and they're like, well, I'm going to just work in the community or whatever it is. Like the stuff that everybody was doing, I'm like, wow, these are really incredible people. And like looking at people who've graduated, I'm like, as long as you stick to it, education can be transformative. I think that's hard because society right now, if you read the news, is like, what, do you need an education anymore? Like, you don't have to have an education to make money and to have a life, but to live a really full and rich life. I think it helps. And for me, education transformed my life. So I'm like, you don't have to, but if you want to go that way, you can get all kind of opportunities that you didn't even see coming. Like with that first list I like looking at, none of those people were like, yeah, I want to be a CEO of a bank or something. That was just not there. They were like, I'm a finance major and I just want a job.
Right.
And just kind of seeing that, just stick with it.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard.
Do you keep in touch with any of your former students at all? Anybody?
I do. I keep in touch with a lot of them. They're mostly people who are majors in English.
Okay.
I do keep in touch with a handful of teachers. I know I probably English teachers at every high school practically in Northwest Indiana because they've gone through. And I teach a lot of creative writing, so I've kept in touch with a lot of people who have done creative writing over the years and have gone on to do grad school and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then obviously you've published some books in your time too. Do you get like a lot of people come to you for advice and things like that on just, editorial stuff and things like that?
Yeah, I've been part of the publishing industry for a long time. So I've edited magazines and published books. So yeah, I do. I sit on panels occasionally, and sometimes people will do interviews and ask for advice and stuff like that. I used to do more of that. I think like 10 years ago or so. My family's kind of like taken over a little bit of that space in my life. But actually, I'm still publishing and all that stuff. I actually have a book that just came out just recently. So I'm always active in the literary community.
Because you've published 14, 15 now books, right?
18 as of
Okay.
as of right now.
Which of those 18 do you think was like your favorite book that you've published?
Yeah,
the book that you're most proud of, I guess you could say.
That one's hard. It's a really hard one to answer because I think as a writer you have what you like, and then you have what people like too. So I think probably my third book was my favorite because it felt like when I finished writing it, it felt like it was done. I don't know if that makes sense, but like sometimes when you write something, you feel like I could just keep editing this and editing. But that one felt like, okay, the inspiration's gone and it's exactly what it needs to be at this point. But as a writer, it's kind of hard to tell. Like the stuff people ask me when I give public readings, people always ask for like the same couple of poems over and over, and they're never my favorites at all. I'm like, sure, I see why you like this, and I'll read it. I'm fine reading whatever. I feel like it's like a musician when you have somebody like the song everybody wants is really popular, and that's not the one your favorite is, but you do it as part of that. So, but it always surprises me things that the ones people like. I'm like, wow, why is it that one that you like? I never can put my finger on what people like and what they can't. So
yeah. When did you publish your first book again? What age? What year?
My first book was I think 2003. So it's been a long time. I started writing in high school because I was a part of a band for a while, and I was writing lyrics, and so I just got more interested in the lyrics than I did in the music. I still do music, but I'm really interested, in the poetry from that experience. And so I wrote all the way through college. And I tend to write, keep it to myself, and then finally be okay with it. So the first couple of books I didn't even publish. I just kind of put them on a shelf. And actually, probably the first one, I don't even know where it is anymore. So it's just gone. But some other ones are sitting on shelves. I'm like, do I publish them or not? Like I have 2 novels sitting on computer files. I'm like, maybe I'll publish them, maybe I won't.
Yeah.
So.
You said you were in a band. Do you play any instruments or anything like that?
I'm a bass player. I do guitar, but I'm really a bass player. And I'm mostly now I'm just playing with like just local people and cover stuff. But when in high school, I would make money. I would do weddings and
would you?
And play people's homecomings and all that kind of stuff. So it was fun.
That's awesome. Yeah. So to wrap up, is there anything else that you wanted to talk about here today?
No, not really. I mean, I appreciate you doing the interview. No, but hopefully it was helpful to do it.
Absolutely, yeah. Thank you for your time.
Sure, of course.